We are on.
Excellent. Hey, welcome to Q&A with B&A. The Q&A makes sense. That's the questions and answers. The B&A, maybe not so much if you didn't watch the first in the series. The B is for Brian. You can see him in the one square in your screen. He's Brian Carso, Associate Professor of History here at Misericordia. The A is for me, Alan Austin. I am a Professor of History here as well. Welcome.
And we are delighted to have three alums of the history program, Nate and Sarah and Allison. And we've just been asking them to reminisce about being a history major. And in this little segment, what we call episode 2 of Q&A with B&A, we want to ask you each about things you did outside of the classroom, internships, special projects, student teaching, and so forth. And why don't we work backwards from episode 1 and begin with Allison. Allison, tell us things that you did as a history major outside of the classroom.
So for me, I was a history secondary education major. So my biggest things outside of the classroom were my field placements as well as my student teaching. So my student teaching, which I did in the spring of my senior year, was probably one of the best things that prepared me for what my career is now as a 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher. So for that, I was able to really figure out exactly what a high school teacher does throughout the day, as well as how to make the history really exciting. So for me, that really prepared me to move into being a teacher today.
You know, I still think back, I've been teaching at Misericordia for 14 years and I had a couple other careers before that, but I still think about my high school teachers sometimes when I'm thinking about, well, how should I teach this thing? There are a couple high school teachers that still kind of live in my mind as instructive as to how to present ideas and all. So it's such a great field to be in.
For me, it was Mrs. Ellis who taught this high school English class, but it was grounded in history. And so like I learned from the beginning that literature and history aren't two separate things, but they work together to teach. So yeah, I completely agree.
I'm actually just catching up on, so, as you get older, you realize there are certain things you want to go back and revisit. And I had a teacher named Mrs. Bloomfield in high school who had us read a lot of William Faulkner, who is kind of difficult. And so I sort of stumbled through it. But I'll tell you, I just finished reading The Sound and the Fury after like a 30-year gap, because I'm still thinking back to what we did in that class and I want to know it better. So it really does kind of, and that's what we all hope as professors, that our students leave with this kind of lifelong learning passion, right?
Absolutely. And Allie, before you student taught, you had many semesters before that where you had a chance to be in and around classrooms. Did that sort of like smooth that transition to student teaching for you?
It definitely did. So Misericordia is really great about your first semester you're in the classroom. So really that also helps decide if it's something you want to do. Not everybody goes into college knowing exactly what they want to do, but it's great if that's what you think you want to do and it solidifies that. So our spring semester is really the first big one. And that's where you mentored 8th graders at a local school. So that really helped build those connections with students. After that, you do 2 semesters of just observation in the classroom. And a lot of times the teachers will give you their lesson plans, just let you observe kind of what they do. After that, you move into practicum, which is you teach twice and you're observed. So that's really great that you start to get that feedback of where you may not be doing as well as you think and working on that. And then you move into student teaching. And the way that Ms. sets it up is also really great, because if you're secondary ed, you get 2 placements, one in 7th or 8th grade, and then one 9th through 12th. So it really helps you to figure out where exactly you want to be, as well as opening your eyes to, well, maybe you're not a fan of the 7th graders, so you think that you would rather be up in the older kids. For me, it surprised me. I loved the high school, but now I'm a 7th and 8th grade teacher, and I love every second of that too. So it's great you start to learn what you like and what curriculum you're really into. And it also shows what you need to work on. So if you think, okay, maybe I'm not as good as this as I thought, before you're going into an interview, you kind of already had one. You got to practice.
Very cool. Sarah.
So through Misericordia, I was able to travel a lot, which I love. And I was able to take an internship in Baltimore at the National Federation of the Blind as a library intern. And then I was one of the coolest experiences of my life, and I hope I can go back, was when I was studying away through American University and I was interning at the National Archives as an exhibits and education intern. It was cut short because of COVID, but they were the 2 best months of my life. I was working on, I was actually working on one of their exhibits that was supposed to open in March of 2021, but I believe it's pushed back now because they're just reopening now. And then I was also doing a lot of school tours and working on a couple new tours for the new exhibit that was supposed to open.
Wow, what a
Yeah.
great experience. That was through the Washington semester program, right? Through Misericordia. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the National Archives is number one, like one of the coolest places on the planet. Like having done some research there, I didn't see it from your end, although I did kind of get behind the scenes occasionally with various archivists. But I can't even imagine like how great an experience like that had to have been.
I was down in Washington once visiting a friend who worked at the Smithsonian, and he had an appointment with a curator of like musical instruments, and because he was a musician, so he brought me along too. And we went into like the back rooms and the basements where things are stored that aren't on display. And we're looking at these Stradivari violins and cases and stuff. And I figured, well, I'm going to try to be a little bit cool here. And I mentioned an article that I had read about a piano that had been in the East Room of the White House during the Theodore Roosevelt administration. I think it was like the 100-year anniversary of the Steinway Piano Corporation. They built this special piano for the White House. And so I mentioned to the curator that I'd read about that. And she said, oh yeah, well, that's right behind you over here. And, took the cover off the piano I was standing next to. I mean, the resources in a place like, whether it's the Smithsonian or the National Archive, I mean, to have history at your fingertips like that.
And to be able to put your hands on history or to work in a position like Sarah does, where you can help the public access history in such a direct and kind of personally meaningful way, has to be incredibly rewarding.
Well, thanks, Sarah. Nate, can you tell us about, I hope at least one thing you'll talk about your capstone, because I tell students about that like every year.
He tells me about it every week.
Well, that was primarily what I was going to talk about. So you're in luck. Well, I think what kind of comes to mind with that is a little bit of the old cliche with college, is that you get out of it what you put into it. And I think that was one of the nicest things about my time as Misericordia, is that I had the ability to put a lot into it so that I could get so much out. And that goes specifically hand in hand with my honors capstone, where I was given kind of free reign in a room in Misericordia's own art gallery to build an exhibition on antiquarian books, which I collect and I have a personal passion and interest for. And I really wanted an opportunity to kind of share that love and just that general passion and just the information about it with everyone. And so it was a bit of a blank slate. I was given a room and I was given a budget. I can't remember the exact budget. Brian, you probably do. There's at least $1,000 to go and just build an exhibition from scratch. And just what I was able to get out of that in terms of project management, presentation skills, all the individual aspects that go into how to construct an exhibit that's going to be seen by hundreds of people while interacting with photographers and printers and the gallery staff, just the sheer amount of experience packed into one project was incredible there.
That was a great exhibit. And
It was.
I like to collect antiquarian books, although I learned things and continue to learn things from Nate, who is very talented at this. And Nate, while Nate graduated 7 years ago, we stay in touch to talk about law and everything, but we also talk a lot about our latest antiquarian book finds. And Nate helps me figure out places to go and find cool books. And we have that conversation. And this is one I just got the other day, Nate, that we will talk about this later, but it's a little volume from 1929 of a one-act play written by Robert Frost that is signed by the poet. So you're all getting a little bit of insight into what Nate and I do over Zoom. There's the signature, if you can see it there. So this is the conversation that we've been having for 7 years. You just got a little glimpse of it, but Zoom makes it a little bit easier as opposed to just texting pictures and stuff. But
Indeed. And Brian can say he can learn from me, but I'll be more honest and say I'm just envious of what Brian gets and gets to show me. But it's a little bit, it's that nice interaction. I mean, I think that's also something that I appreciate, is that I get to stay in touch with you guys even 7 years out now.
yeah, that is.
Nate tried to teach me and it didn't take. I wasn't the student that Brian was, apparently. One of the things that's really awesome about Misericordia is the way that Nate's talking about the chance to kind of pursue your passion, like to make the education your own. And I think that makes us distinctive. I hope it does. I know that, like Nate, that passion for collecting always makes me think of the gift you gave me when you
I
graduated.
knew this was coming up too.
Yeah, it had to. Because I would just say to Allie and Sarah, occasionally students actually give me a gift when they graduate, just kind of put that out there.
Graduation.
They got to graduate though.
Yeah, we didn't have a graduation.
That's fair, but you will get one, as I understand it. But so I guess what I hear you saying is the gift is coming, which I appreciate. But more seriously, when Nate graduated, he knew that I was a Cleveland Browns fan. It is my great shame in life that
The only Cleveland Browns fan.
Yeah, I was born in Cleveland, and you just inherit your fandom, and that's how it is. So when Nate graduated, he went out of his way to get me a football signed by Trent Richardson, the first-round draft pick of the Browns, who they literally traded like 2.5 weeks later, which I think is like the classic Cleveland Browns kind of story. That like only would that story would only happen to a Browns fan.
What he's saying is that the bar is not that high for your gift to beat.
I thought it was a really thoughtful gift that still sits on my bookshelf at school. It is, however, it's deflated over time. But I think instead of filling it with air, it also kind of captures the spirit of the Browns fan in a way that I think that I'm just going to let it sit deflated.
It's an art piece now.
There you go.
So I think that's the end of our episode 2 of Q&A with B&A. So we will
Sadly.
sign off here, and we'll be back soon for episode 3.
I can feel on episode 3 cooking.
Till next time.